My name's Andy Varga and I live in Thailand. I've been living in Thailand for quite a while, and my interest in audio equipment and hi-fi, I guess it goes back to when I was a kid. And I think, that real excitement, I think, the first time that you were allowed into your father's, audio listening room, and he opened this wonderful wooden box that inside it there was a record player, an old-fashioned Goddard turntable. And I can still remember the smell, this incredible smell when you open the box, and it had this kind of somehow a mixture of oil and green felt that was lining the box. And I just used to look at these bits of equipment that he had, the turntable, the amplifier, which used to be in a lovely wooden box, and think, wow, this is amazing stuff, So there was a kind of an interest right from childhood, really, about the equipment, and then that developed, I guess, as I got older, to eventually working in the audio and visual industry. I worked in television production for many years in the UK, and then eventually abroad in Italy. And I was involved in audio and video, so I got to work with, obviously, the equipment that I'd seen as a kid, which became a hobby, and then it became a profession. So I've always been around technical equipment. I have a good appreciation of it, but behind all that, I guess, is a love of music, like many people, and it's a huge business today. Everybody loves music, and so I guess at the end of the day, what drives you to get the best equipment, to find that equipment, is the basic love of music. You're trying to recreate what you can hear in the concert hall. In my case, I used to run a classical music website. When I finished working in TV, I actually ran a website for several years that was about live music. And part of that job, wonderful part of the job, was going to concerts around the world. So I got to travel, and I went to many live concerts, classical concerts, jazz concerts mostly. I think through doing that for many years, when I finally got the chance to invest, had the money to buy equipment that was really valuable, the whole point was to try to buy equipment which is going to recreate the sound of that, of the auditorium, of the live music that you've been used to listening to. So over the years, I've actually had many different bits of hi-fi. Started off with Infinity speakers, an American make, I think based in California. They're very glamorous, very good for rock music. They kind of boosted everything, they boosted that mid-range, the treble and the bass, but at the time it was great. It was good for playing glamorous rock. And then, my interest changed from rock music. I gradually became interested in jazz, classical music. So then I tended to go for equipment that was actually more natural sounding, like B&W, and actually quad. I actually had a pair of original quad ELS, is it 64, 65, the electrostatic speakers that were made in the 50s. And so you got a much more neutral sound, a very nice, modest sound, and that was more in keeping with the music that I was listening to at the time. And now that I can afford it, I go to what I consider the top of the range, which is, in this case, Amphion. And what I really like about the Amphion is that it does, for me, recreates the natural timbre of the sound that I am used to, or was used to hearing in concert halls over the years, to quite an extraordinary degree. Actually, I listen to an orchestra or chamber music, and I'm just amazed at really how you can pinpoint where the instruments are, the placement, not only the placement, but the sound of the instrument. You have a clarity, a precision, a naturalness to it. I was just talking earlier to somebody about this, and they were saying, there's no limiter. When you listen to these speakers, there's no compression. It's an open sound, and that's what I love about it. You just get this openness of sound, and the sound stage is just like you're sitting in a concert, and you can't ask for more than that, really. Okay, So for this, of course, it's actually an interesting question. What's more important, the front end or the back end? I try to get as clean a signal coming in from the internet as possible. I actually use a Korean company, I think. It's just, oh Christ, I don't even know what it is. Maybe I shouldn't bother about that. Let's start again. I was going to talk about the filter because there's actually a company that makes this little box that goes on the output of your modem, and you plug into that, and then it feeds into your streamer. So, but I can't remember what it's called, so there's probably no point. Okay, so the front end, the equipment that I use at the front end is, I really like Lumen. I have a Lumen U2 streamer, and it is only a streamer. It doesn't do any conversion, so it's just a streamer, and that seems to me to have an accuracy again, and you can't tell it's there. It's completely anonymous. It's transparent. The other thing which is so important, of course, which that then goes into, is the DAC, and I like Vice, the Swiss company, and again, that for me, it has an amazing sound stage. When I've compared it with other DACs, when you compare Vice to pretty much anything else that I've heard, it just moves everything a little bit forward, a bit more closer to you, but also sideways. You suddenly get this sound which has opened up into the acoustics of the concert hall. So, if you like live music, natural music, I really recommend Vice. I started off with a 204, but I liked it so much I actually couldn't help myself. I had to listen to something that was further up in their product range, and ended up with a 502, which I haven't actually quite got it yet, but it's on its way. But the distributor very kindly let me use it for a month or so. So I had 4 or 5 weeks with it, and just didn't want to stop using it really. It was just so amazing. And when you combine the Lumen with the Vice with the Amphion, I mean, I think it's a dream product really, and I just get so much satisfaction from listening to those instruments from that music. And the interesting thing about it is that it doesn't matter what you listen to, everything that you listen to with that setup is a musical adventure. You hear things that you didn't hear before, or if it's the first time you hear it, even if you don't like the music, you're still interested to hear what's going on, because it gives you a level of insight into the music, the different layers of what's going on. You can hear it. So as somebody who's interested in audio, I actually don't care whether I like the music or not. I'm just fascinated to hear the difference between different recordings, between different performances, between different musicians, between different instruments. And so what you can get when you really, I guess, fork out so much money for something that it is very expensive, but what you get in return is an insight into the character, the body, performance, things that you just simply wouldn't get from other equipment. So for me, it is worth that investment, because every time I listen to something, it's just a genuinely interesting experience. And you come away at the end of the evening and you feel like you've had a night out. You feel like you've been to a concert, that you've been to an event. It's not just sitting there listening to a pre-recorded track, So it basically takes it from the two-dimensional world into the three-dimensional world. So really, to recap, what I really like about the 125A is that it's the first speaker that I have purchased that really gives me an insight into the music as if I'm actually there at an event. I don't feel that I'm in my living room. I feel that I am actually participating in an event. And one of the ways I think it does that is by making everything so clear. The clarity, especially in the mid-range, you listen to vocals if it's well recorded, and it's almost like that person is either there in the room or you're there with them. I mean, take your pick. But you come away from it, and like I said in the previous answer, you come away from it at the end of the evening feeling that you have actually been to a concert, you've actually participated. There's an interactivity, because it makes you listen so intensely that you are not just passive listening. You are kind of somehow interacting with the music, with the nuances of the performance, with the, this may sound over the top, but it really isn't. I mean, it's, I think if you're passionate about audio, if you're passionate about sound, these are the things that you'll get from a system like this. adding the Flex Bass 25 to it. And the reason I did that is because I listened to a lot of orchestral music, so I was just hoping that what I could do is increase the body of the sound, because it's, of course, you know, when you're listening to chamber music or a smaller ensemble, it's very easy to imagine that they're there in the room with you, because everything is on the same scale as you, or as the same scale as your room. But of course, when you're listening to an orchestra, you're suddenly, you know, you can't imagine that you've got 70 or 100 musicians sitting in your living room. So it's obviously, you know, there is a sort of compression of something going on there. But I think what you really get from adding something like the Flex Bass is that, you know, that bass section of the orchestra just sounds more rock solid, more deep, more, you know, you can feel it. You can actually feel the vibrations of what's going on. So it's kind of, it does feel somehow like you're sitting in the third row of the concert hall. And that's what I like also. It's not just the sound, it's this thing of actually feeling the music more. And because, you know, you want to be careful that bass, the original standard bass with the 125A is so good, you really don't need a subwoofer. It's a full range speaker, and I honestly would have been happy if I, you know, couldn't have afforded the subwoofer. I would have been more than happy to just to listen to what I've got there. It's a full range speaker and it works extremely well. So you want to be careful when you add a subwoofer to it that you don't overdo the tightness of, you know, those qualities that are so good about the 125A, one of them being the tightness of the bass and the natural sound. It would be very easy to kind of overdo that, you know, because you've got the equipment, you're going to overuse it. So you don't need to do that. But what you will get is a very subtle augmentation, a subtle improvement, which it doesn't jump on top of you. You have to listen to it and just submerge yourself. But then you realize after a time, after you've been listening to it for a long while, that actually, yeah, this has given me another dimension, an element of a dimension that I didn't have before. For me, that's worth paying the extra money for. You know, I can imagine that, you know, apart from anything else, I've had fun for lots and lots of hours playing with a variable crossover system and different settings and different levels for different tracks. So it's a great toy on top of just a listening experience, because actually you've got this amazing variable crossover control. So you really can dial in the nth degree of subtlety, you know, just up to your patience with it really, and how much you like playing with it. Okay, so the first part of this question is obviously very easy for me to answer. So it's an unequivocal yes, I would definitely recommend this to, you know, I think you need to be somebody who wants to listen to the natural sound of something. You're not interested in an overly glamorous sound, by which I mean, you know, if you're someone who likes to boost the top end and just boost the bottom end, you've got many speakers that will do that for you, no problem. But if you want to hear, I mean, I mostly listen to music that's made with natural instruments, so I can't talk too much about rock because it's not really my genre, but I do like it. But it's the same for everything really. What you'll hear with this is what the guy is listening to in the recording studio when he's actually recording the sound. So, and what the producer is listening to, what the engineer is listening to, and what the musician is listening to. I personally want to be in that space. I want to be in that space. I want to hear what it is that those guys are listening to, because my passion is not only the music, but it's the acoustics behind the music. I mean, I'm someone who likes to go into a space, and any space, and I'll listen to the acoustics. I'll just say, oh wow, this sounds like an interesting room, you know, but just because I like the sound, and you know, I have friends who are like that. So you know, if you're someone who passionate about audio, I wouldn't waste money on these you know, made for retail equipment, which they put as much money into the veneer and the box, perhaps more money into the look of the thing as they do into the electronics or the acoustics that's inside the box. So I think, you know, when you're buying this kind of pro gear, all the money, I mean, all it is that if the box are really boring, you know, just black boxes, right? And that's very reassuring, because, you know, the money has gone into what's inside the amplifier, what's inside the speaker, what's inside the construction of the actual cabinet. And that's what I want, because the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the performance. So that, you know, if you're an audiophile, if you're someone who is very fussy about making music, then this is for you. This is for you. I mean, I actually can say that it is excellent for movie soundtracks, although I haven't used it myself, because when I originally auditioned these speakers in one of Amphion's development centres in Finland. That's why I first came across them, that's why I know about them. And we did actually listen to a full movie using these speakers, and it was excellent. I mean, and one of the reasons is it has such a great dynamic range. I remember it was, even at the beginning of the movie, it was a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer MGM film, you know, where the lion comes on at the beginning and does that growl, and I literally jumped out of my seat when he growled, because it was so vivid, it was so lifelike. But the rest of the movie was great as well. So it was good. So it's definitely worth using for as a movie speaker as well. Definitely recommend that. Perfect. Well done. Thank you.